Welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to Chapter 9 of What Makes a Monster and What Makes a Man. Here's the chapter summary. Dip Productions brings you its newest film, Nightmares, starring Yellow Dorito. Which I will note as myself that sounds very similar to that one episode of Steven Universe. But here's the chapter. Dipper knew this was a dream. He knew how it would play out, knew how it would end. He would wake up in a cold sweat, probably screaming, and there was nothing he could do but let it run its course. Bill would do some sort of unspeakable evil, something that would make Dipper's stomach turn, torture everyone, destroy everything, turn him back into a puppet, hurt Mabel. He didn't turn around. It didn't matter. Bill was suddenly floating in front of him anyways. He kept his eyes open. It was worse when he couldn't see what was happening. Wow, Pine Tree, I knew you were scared, but still, it's inspiring some of the ideas you come up with. I might have to make a few of them a reality once I'm free. Dipper was tired. Even asleep, he could never rest. Just get it over with, Bill. What, no fight? No dramatic speech about never giving up? I didn't expect you to break so easily. When did you become this weak? What happened to the great savior that vanquished the conqueror? This was new. Bill never talked, not in the dreams. In dreams, Bill hurt people. Hurt him. Hurt Grunkle Stan and Great Uncle Ford and Wendy and Soos and Mabel. The last time Bill had wanted to talk was before they had wiped Grunkle Stan's memory. Dipper scrutinized the yellow triangle demon in front of him, trying to spot any lack of detail that would indicate he wasn't real. There were none, which meant it was Bill. Real Bill. It meant Bill could still project himself, and Bill could escape, and Bill was inside his mind. Don't look so down about it, Pine Tree. This is all you're doing. The memory wipe trick could have worked if not for you. Somehow, Dipper knew it was true. This was another thing he had managed to screw up beyond repair. He messed everything up. It was when you became my puppet, see? I had complete control over your body. You managed to boot me out, but not before I managed to keep a part of myself latched onto you. I've been slumbering in your subconscious, and now you've called me out. All that thinking about me and wondering about me and the fear. Oh yes, the fear. Finally realizing that you deserve to feel this way because it was all your fault. Everything is your fault. It was enough to wake me up, and now I'm here. It made sense. Dipper felt sick. Now all you need to do is free me, and we can restart the end of the world. Pick up where we left off. Doesn't that sound fun? People screaming. A blood-red sky. Monsters that argued over which bits of your body they would get to eat. Freeing Mabel. Going to fight Bill, getting caught. Bill chasing them, Bill clutching them, choosing which one to kill. Never mind all that. Never mind? Never mind? Pine Tree, don't act like you don't mind, because you do mind. Want to know why? Because you miss it. You wish you still had to fight me, because people were suffering. You liked watching people suffering. You say Steven is a monster, but it's actually you. No, that's not true. It couldn't be. Even if things had been easier then, there had always been a simple goal. Protect Mabel. Survive. Defeat Bill. It had been terrifying, but at least he had a purpose. Now, see, you do miss me. That's why you woke me up. Why you kept me alive this long. Whose fault was it that I was freed in the first place? Mine. That's right, yours. And I pay back my debts. I have good news for you, Dipper. When, not if, when I am free again, I won't destroy you. Everyone else in Gravity Falls must pay for what they did, and the Pines family will suffer. I'll enjoy their screams, but not yours. Dipper, you will be rewarded. You will be granted a place at my side where you shall remain for all eternity as repayment for ensuring my control over reality. Bill was threatening everyone. Bill wanted to hurt people. Bill wanted to hurt his family. And somehow, Dipper's mind felt clearer than it had since the end of the summer. He had to save everyone. I'll stop you. Why? Besides my offer, what is there for you? Say you do manage to prevent my return. What next? What happens to the hero when there are no more villains to fight? They live happily ever after. Happily ever after, huh? Such an interesting concept, but it really doesn't work that way, does it? You're supposed to be living happily ever after right now. Instead, you're here. Just take a look at Steven. He fought in a war, went through countless identity crises, nearly died more times than he can remember. Want to know what he was typing in his phone earlier? A reminder about how he got one of his friends killed trying to run away from who he was. Like you're trying to do right now. And you know what happened when there was no one left to fight? Steven became the villain. Steven wasn't a villain. Everyone said so. He had just been through hardship, suffered, fought a war. Steven and I, We have a lot in common. Being able to walk in the dreamscape, the ability to possess lesser life forms, destructive powers. There's a reason he's not with the gems, a reason he ran when you called him a monster. And if he's similar to you, that means you're like me. Connie, who held a sword and told him to never hurt Stephen again. Stephen, who effortlessly took out highly trained government agents. Stephen, who was actually a diamond. Dipper, who was a monster. Listen, Pine Tree, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and you have passed the point of being able to die a hero. It's only a matter of time before someone finds the statue. All it takes is one handshake and I'm back. It'll be like I never left. You can't prevent it, it's inevitable. Whether at some rando's hand or yours, I will be free. What are you going to do when that happens? Struggle needlessly or stand by my side? Dipper woke up slowly, as if his mind was struggling to settle after the communication with Bill. Dipper had communicated with Bill. He bolted upright. Mabel, wake up! Please, Mabel, you have to wake up! Dipper, can't you be quiet? It's early. Mabel, I talked to Bill. The Mystery Shack family was gathered in the living room. Stephen was in the kitchen, making breakfast. It was the best opportunity Dipper would get to talk, but he couldn't bring himself to form words. He looked desperately towards Mabel. She handed him his worm on a string. Dipper was unsure when he started to consider the creature his, but he did. Dipper had a dream with Bill last night. Actual Bill. It was hard for Dipper to explain. He couldn't properly convey the pure terror he felt. He didn't want to explain what Bill had said about his nature, about how he would stand at Bill's side, but with help from Mabel, he managed to get the general point across. It took some time to absorb what had been said. Then, Great Uncle Ford spoke up. We need a way to get Bill out of your head, and we are not using the memory gun. Dipper shut his eyes. Stephen actually might be able to help with that. Bill said he could go into other people's dreams. He might be able to help get him out. The group lapsed into silence once more. A few minutes later, Stephen came back with a few different plates. Coffee for Stan, bacon and eggs for Ford, breakfast burrito sandwich for Soos, waffles for the kids, he announced, going around the room. The waffles were topped with whipped cream and syrup. Stephen had a cup of tea. Everyone looked at each other, trying to figure out who would ask. It turned out to be Soos. Stephen, dude, do you think you could go into Dipper's mind at night and use your super special gem powers to fight a demon in his brain? Stephen set his tea to the side and took a deep breath. No, my powers have gotten a lot more volatile since I last used them to astral project. Stephen was dangerous and volatile. Bill was a demon, which made Dipper a monster. The closest I've come to it in years was technology hijacking. Instead of broadcasting my consciousness and being able to control what happened, it was my subconsciousness, which Dipper does not deserve to deal with. Stephen fell silent, his eyes distant. Was he thinking about how he got his friend killed? Or how he almost died? Or something else entirely? Okay then, Grunkle Stan spoke up. We need a way to keep anyone from shaking his hand. Great Uncle Ford thought for a moment. We could shatter the statue. A strangled noise came from Stephen's direction. He was on his knees, clutching his forehead. That's all of Chapter 9. Here's Chapter 10, Just a Little Something That I Need. The summary. Dipper is confronted by a panicking Stephen. Can Dipper trust himself to make the right decision now that he knows he's connected to Bill? Watching Stephen fall to the ground, Dipper knew this was his fault. His fault for pushing. His fault for bringing Stephen into it. His fault for failing to defeat Bill. Dipper did this, and now Stephen was hurting. Stephen, who was like Bill. Stephen, who had destructive powers. Stephen, who could walk in the dreamscape and possess people. Stephen, who talked with Mabel about relationships. Stephen, who made everyone breakfast. Stephen, who helped when he caused Dipper to panic. Hey, Stephen, I don't know if you can hear me right now, but I want you to try something with me, okay? This was new territory, but Dipper was familiar with the stakes. Stop the outburst, save everyone. He had to make up for what he had done. He had to help Stephen. I want you to breathe in with me, okay? In, 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dipper continued to talk Stephen through breathing and tried to remember what Connie had done. She had been supportive. Talked to him, comforted him, been there for him, distracted him. Once Stevens was no longer hyperventilating, Dipper started talking about old adventures. One time, Grunkle Stan told Mabel that he had never seen a rainbow, so he decided to interfere. We set up a giant mirror and reflected a rainbow into his office. What other harmless adventures had there been? Another time, I used the old copy machine in order to make duplicates of myself. Stephen flinched. Dipper changed adventures. Did Mabel tell you about the time she fell in love with a mermaid? They met at the pool in town. She wanted to help free him, so she loaded him into the cooler and drove him around the Gravity Falls lake. He sent her home messages in bottles to let her know he had made it back to the ocean. The bubble around Stephen faded away. There was one time we found an old mailbox in the woods. It could answer any question. It knew our names and how Soos shaved a baby duck and paddleball in the back of his head. Then Mabel put in a video of her shoving gummy worms up her nose. Stephen looked up, the ghost of a smile on his face. I once sent my friend a letter that narrated the entire thing to him. Mabel spoke up. Stephen, would you be comfortable with a hug? He nodded, and Mabel approached. She slowly wrapped her arms around him. Do you want to talk about it? It's just that shattering a gem, you aren't supposed to come back from that. Great Uncle Ford rubbed his chin. Aren't supposed to? Does that mean it is possible? Stephen's eyes went glassy and his breath hitched. Mabel rubbed his back. Don't want to talk about it. Why do you want me to go into Dipper's mind? Ford shook his head. We can't. That would violate the Never Mind All That Act. That law never stopped me before, Stan pointed out. Last summer, this weird triangle demon named Bill started the end of the world. We tricked him to go into my mind and then wiped it. We thought the statue was all that was left, but it seems this parasite had attached himself to Dipper. If anyone is dumb enough to shake his hand, he'll be able to start all over again. Can he be reasoned with? Bill? Reasoned with? No way, dude. He's like a being of pure evil and chaos. Sounds like White Diamond. The reasoning part, not the chaos part. She craved order and perfection. Everyone said she couldn't be reasoned with, but she came around. Stephen trailed off and curled up tighter, pressing his legs against his chest and stomach, his arms wrapped around himself. He was going to kill everyone. He threatened me and Dipper in order to force Uncle Stan to make a deal with him, Mabel murmured, still rubbing softly. Stephen uncurled slightly and nodded. A bluebird situation. This bluebird threatened you? Uncle Stan cracked his knuckles. In her defense, nearly every gem I know has done the same. She's just one of the few that didn't want to be friends afterwards. Dipper felt like the bottomless pit was about to swallow him. Why had everyone tried to kill Stephen? Did it have to do with him being a villain, like Bill had said? And who befriended their enemies? If Stephen befriended people that tried to kill him, and Stephen was like Dipper, and Bill had tried to kill him, maybe Dipper was destined to work with Bill? Uncle Stan knelt next to Stephen and put a hand on his shoulder. Soos sat down at his feet, and Great Uncle Ford draped him in a blanket. The group sat around Stephen, comforting him. Dipper sat awkwardly to the side. He didn't deserve to partake. He had caused this. Stephen wouldn't appreciate him being there. He had to keep his distance so that he didn't hurt anyone else. Stephen looked at Dipper, eyes unreadable and full of emotion. I think I have an idea of what to do about Bill. You don't know what'll happen if you break the statue. It might free him. Instead, we put the statue somewhere safe. There's this garden in outer space. My mom left someone there once, and no one found her for 6,000 years. There are no life forms anywhere nearby, and he would be unable to influence any of the gems since they don't sleep. Even if he manages to escape Dipper's mind, he won't be near the Earth. That was an extremely convenient solution. They had no way to verify if it was true. It could all be a ploy to release Bill. How could no one have found this person for 6,000 years? And why would an intergalactic dictator need a garden with nothing around? During my research about the law of weirdness magnetism, I found a way to replicate the barrier surrounding the town. We could activate a barrier around the garden. Then if Bill were to regain physical form, he would still be trapped. Dipper knew he should speak up, that he should warn against this plan, against trusting anyone they didn't know. What had happened to trust no one? He remained silent. The Pines family was taking Stephen to Bill's statue. Dipper was taking Stephen to Bill's statue. This was what he had been trying to prevent. Now he was helping it happen. Bill's words clouded his mind. Did he miss fighting? Was he making Stephen into a villain purely to have an opponent? Did he need to be a hero so badly that he was willing to put people in danger? Did he deserve a happily ever after? They arrived at Bill's statue. It was covered in moss, but unmistakably the triangle demon. His hand was outstretched, waiting for someone to make a deal. Stephen walked towards the statue. Dipper's heart was in his throat. Stephen reached out his hand. Dipper resisted the urge to tackle him to the ground. Stephen formed a pink bubble around the statue, the same way he had for the gem shards. Then he pulled out his phone. Hey, Pearl? Yeah, it's been great here. I'm enjoying it. Yes. Tomorrow. Listen, are you at the temple right now? Okay. I'm about to send a demon there in a bubble. Don't pop the bubble. A demon, like the villain from Lonely Blade 3. Could you warp it to Mom's garden? Okay. Text me when you're done. Love you too. Stephen hung up and turned towards the rest of the group. Everything is good to go. Are you guys sure about this? Grunkle Stan gave a thumbs up. Great Uncle Ford nodded. So long, sucker! Mabel shouted. Everyone turned to look at Dipper. He wasn't sure about this. Could this Pearl be trusted not to release Bill immediately? Did it matter if it meant Bill wasn't no longer in Gravity Falls? Did Dipper trust Stephen? Dipper was the reason Bill remained a threat. Dipper couldn't be trusted with decisions regarding the demon. It would be better to follow what everyone else suggested. People who didn't have Bill in their subconscious. Dipper squeezed the worm on a string in his pocket and nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Stephen tapped the top of the bubble. It vanished. Dipper felt a wave of relief, then guilt for being relieved. Even if Bill did manage to escape, he was far away. He couldn't hurt anyone in Gravity Falls, except Dipper, who deserved it. Bill was no longer a threat to the Earth, unless the gems were working with him, unless this had been the plan all along. Dipper shook his head, trying to get rid of the doubts. Bill was inside him. He couldn't be trusted. His family could, and his family trusted Stephen. Stephen turned to Ford. Bismuth, Lapis, and Peridot are going to take a ship to the garden in order to activate the barrier. I'll give you Peridot's contact so you can send her the information. The group started back towards the mystery shack. Dipper paused and took a long look at where the statue had been. Then he turned and walked away. When they got back, Dipper and Mabel went into town to help Grunkle Stan get some fireworks. That night, they lit them in celebration, danced, did karaoke, and drank pit cola. Pearl texted Stephen, saying that the statue was in the garden and that gems were on their way to activate the barrier. The demon was imprisoned somewhere that wasn't Gravity Falls. When Dipper started dreaming, Bill didn't talk. That's the end of Chapter 10. I really hope you enjoyed, and I want to thank you all for listening. This is my really first time making Podfics, and it's going great. I think it's a lot of fun. I'll see you next time for Chapter 11. Patch out.